The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I had messed up. It was supposed to be a dumb joke, the kind you throw at a friend while you're half laughing and half trying to act cool. But then his mom heard me. She turned from the kitchen with a knife in her hand, looked straight at me, and smiled, like I had just said something she had been waiting to hear for a long time. My name is Ryan. I'm 24, and I live just outside Sacramento in a small town that feels like it never changes. The sun always hangs low over the streets, even when it's bright, and everything moves slow like people are saving their energy for something that never comes. I work part-time at a phone repair shop wedged between a laundromat and a diner that smells like burnt coffee. Most days it's cracked screens, waterlogged phones, and customers swearing they did not drop their device even when it looks like it got run over. It's not a dream job, but it pays my rent, keeps gas in my beat-up 2009 Honda, and gives me enough cash to grab a beer with friends on weekends. I've never been the guy with big goals. I dropped out of college after one semester because it felt pointless. Too many papers, too much pressure, not enough reason. My life is simple. Work, home, music, sleep, repeat. Classic rock is my thing. Springsteen, Zeppelin, the kind of songs my dad used to blast before he moved across the country and stopped calling like he promised he would. I don't date much. A few flings, nothing serious. Girls my age always want something bigger, a plan, a future, a version of me that looks better on paper. I'm not that guy. I'm just Ryan, the guy who can swap a phone battery in 5 minutes and doesn't mind the quiet. About a month ago, Nico started working at the shop. He's 22, doing community college, loud as hell in the best way. He laughs with his whole body and says exactly what's on his mind, which makes him terrible with cranky customers, but great company when the shop is slow. We clicked fast. Same sense of humor, same taste in music, same habit of talking trash while we work. One Saturday, he looked up from a shattered Samsung and said, "Yo, you should come over tonight. I got the new Call of Duty and my mom's making tacos." I didn't have plans, so I shrugged like it meant nothing. Sure. Text me the address. That's how I ended up at Nico's house that night, a neat 2-story place in a neighborhood that looked like it was built for family photos. Trim lawns, white fences, a little American flag hanging on the porch like a decoration that never comes down. Nico opened the door in socks and a faded Nirvana shirt, already in the middle of a story about some professor he couldn't stand. "Come on in, dude," he said, waving me through like I'd been there 100 times. The living room was cozy. Wood floors, a worn leather couch, a big flat screen with a game console ready to go. The house smelled like cumin and grilled peppers. I was about to drop my backpack near the couch when she walked in from the kitchen. Elise. I wasn't ready for her. Not even close. She didn't look like what you picture when someone says my mom. Her hair was brown and wavy, tied back in a loose ponytail with a few strands falling around her face. She wore jeans and a plain white t-shirt, nothing fancy. But she carried herself like she didn't need fancy, like she knew who she was and didn't need anyone's approval. She looked younger than she should have, maybe early 30s, even though Nico was 22. It didn't make sense, and my brain kept trying to do the math while my chest did something stupid. "Hey, you must be Ryan," she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her voice was warm, steady, calm in a way that made me feel like I was the one making noise. "Nico's told me about you. Welcome." Yeah. "Hi," I said, and I hated how my voice came out. "Thanks for having me." Her smile grew a little. "Don't call me ma'am, just Elise." Nico groaned like he was already tired. "Mom, stop." Elise laughed, soft and easy. "I'm just being nice." "This one's been talking about you non-stop," she told me. "Says you're the only guy at work who doesn't drive him crazy." Nico threw his hands up. "That is not what I said." I laughed, but it came out shaky. Elise turned back toward the kitchen. "Tacos are almost ready. Hope you're hungry." Nico and I played Call of Duty on the couch. He yelled at the screen every time he got sniped, blamed the game, blamed the controller, blamed me. I tried to stay locked in, but I kept glancing toward the kitchen. Elise was moving around the counter, chopping and stirring, calm like she had done it 1,000 times. The light from the overhead lamp hit her hair and made it shine. I caught myself staring too long, like an idiot, until Nico elbowed me. "Yo, focus," he said. "You're getting us killed." I forced my eyes back to the game, but my head wasn't in it. When Nico ran to the bathroom, it left me alone on the couch for a minute. The game paused, and the room suddenly quieter. Elise looked over from the kitchen. "You boys need anything? Water? Soda?" "Nah, we're good," I said, and when I looked up, our eyes met. It lasted a second too long. I felt it in my stomach, like I had stepped into a place I wasn't supposed to be. Elise didn't look away first. She just watched me with a calm expression, like she could read every thought I was trying to hide. My mouth moved before my brain could stop it. "Dude," I said, loud enough for Nico to hear when he came back, trying to play it off like a joke, "your mom's prettier than any girl I've ever dated." The second I said it, I wanted to grab the words out of the air and shove them back in my throat. Nico made a gag sound from the hallway. "Gross, man. Shut up." But Elise heard me. I knew she did. She turned slowly. She was holding a knife, cilantro on the cutting board, and she looked at me like she was deciding something. My face burned. I waited for her to snap, to tell me to watch my mouth, to make it awkward and normal again. Instead, the corner of her mouth lifted. Not a big smile, not a laugh. A small, quiet smile that made my stomach flip. She didn't scold me, she didn't tease me, she didn't pretend she didn't hear it. She just held my gaze for one steady moment, then turned back to the cutting board like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing to me, because that smile didn't feel like a mom smile. It felt like a secret. That smile followed me all the way home. I drove through the quiet Sacramento suburbs with my window down, the night air cool against my face, and I kept replaying the moment like it was stuck on a loop. Elise turning with the knife in her hand, her eyes landing on me. That small smile that looked like she understood exactly what I meant, even if I had meant it as a joke. I told myself to drop it. She was Nico's mom. End of story. But my brain didn't listen. The next few days at the shop felt normal on the outside. Phones came in cracked and dead. People complained. Nico cracked jokes and talked trash. But every time I had a quiet second, my mind drifted back to her kitchen and that look. Nico never brought it up. Not once. Either he forgot or he didn't think it mattered. That almost made it worse, because it meant the moment belonged to me and Elise alone. On Tuesday night, I was on my couch scrolling through Instagram when my phone buzzed with a notification. "Elise followed you." I sat up so fast my knee hit the coffee table. My heart thumped hard like I had just run upstairs. I stared at the screen, then tapped her profile before I could talk myself out of it. Her picture was simple. Elise on a park bench, sunlight in her hair, holding a coffee cup. No heavy makeup, no fake smile, just calm, like she belonged wherever she was. I scrolled through her posts. A garden bed with bright flowers, a stack of books on a table, a sunset over the Sacramento River, a photo of homemade bread that looked so good I could smell it through the screen. Normal stuff, but it didn't feel normal that she was in my phone. Then I noticed she had liked one of my old posts from last summer. A blurry picture of me at Santa Cruz, grinning like an idiot with sand stuck to my hair. Nobody goes that far back unless they're looking. That thought made my stomach twist in a way that wasn't fear. It was excitement. I followed her back, telling myself it was polite. My finger hovered for a second, then I hit the button. The moment it happened, my palms felt sweaty. At work the next day, I kept catching myself checking my phone. Like I expected a message. Nothing came. Still, I started watching for her without meaning to. I'd glance at the shop door whenever it opened, half expecting Elise to walk in and drop off something for Nico. She never did. But the hope stayed anyway, quiet and annoying. By Friday, I had talked myself into believing I overreacted. Maybe she followed me because I was Nico's friend. Maybe she liked my post because it was funny. Maybe that smile meant nothing. Then Nico texted me, "Yo, come over tomorrow. Mom's making lasagna. "You down?" My chest tightened. It had nothing to do with the food. I typed back, "Hell yeah," and tried to act normal for the rest of the night. I even changed my shirt twice before I finally settled on a clean black button-down, then immediately felt stupid for caring. Saturday evening, I pulled up to Nico's house again. The porch light was on, the flag was still hanging, and the neighborhood looked calm, like it didn't know how messy my thoughts were. Nico opened the door, already talking. "Bro, you won't believe what happened at school." I followed him inside, and the smell hit me right away. Garlic, tomato sauce, melted cheese, warm and heavy in the air. Elise was in the kitchen. Her hair was down this time, curling past her shoulders. She wore jeans, a thin gray t-shirt, and an apron tied loosely at her waist. She looked up when she saw me, and her face lit with that same calm confidence. "Ryan," she said, and my name sounded different coming from her. "Good to see you. Hope you're ready." I went all out. "It smells amazing," I managed. Her eyes held mine for a beat, and I felt that same flip in my stomach again. Then she turned back to the stove like she was the calm one and I was the kid. We sat at the dining table. Nico talked through most of the meal, going on about work, school, and some new game he wanted. Elise laughed at his stories and asked questions like she actually cared, but every so often, her eyes drifted to me. Not long, not obvious, just enough to make me feel like there was a string between us that pulled tight every time our gaze met. After dinner, Nico got a call and disappeared upstairs. The second his footsteps faded, the house felt different, quieter, like the air was listening. I stood up fast, needing something to do with my hands. "I'll help clean up," I said. Elise handed me a sponge and nodded toward the sink. "You sure you know how to use that?" I laughed, trying to play it cool. "I'm a pro." I started scrubbing plates while she rinsed and stacked. The kitchen was small, and we kept brushing shoulders. Her arm touched mine when she reached for a glass. My body reacted like it was electricity. I focused on the soap bubbles like they could save me. Then Elise spoke, her voice lower, almost a whisper. "You know what you said last time," she said. My hands froze. The sponge dripped onto the counter. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it out loud." Elise turned to face me. Her eyes were steady, not angry, not embarrassed. "Don't apologize," she said. "It's been a long time since anyone said something like that and meant it." My throat went dry. "You think I meant it?" Quote. Her mouth curved into that small smile again. "I know you did." I stared at her, not sure what to do with that. The kitchen felt warmer than before. Or maybe it was just my face. Elise leaned her hip against the counter, still holding a dish towel. "Most people don't notice me anymore," she admitted. "Not like that." I tried to breathe. "That's hard to believe." Her eyes searched mine like she was testing how honest I could be. "I noticed you," I said quietly. "Right away." Her smile softened, and for a second her confidence slipped, showing something real underneath, something lonely. Before I could say anything else, Nico's footsteps thumped down the stairs. Elise stepped back fast, grabbing a plate like nothing had happened. I picked up the sponge again like my life depended on it. Nico walked into the kitchen talking about some party his friend wanted him to hit later, completely oblivious. I nodded along, but my brain was still stuck on Elise's words. When it was time to leave, Nico went to grab his jacket. Elise walked me to the door, and the porch light cast a warm glow over her face. She leaned in just slightly, close enough that I could smell something soft on her skin, like clean laundry and lavender. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice low. "And Ryan?" I swallowed. "Yeah?" "For what you said," she whispered. "It stayed with me." I nodded because my mouth was too dry for words. Then she stepped back like it never happened, and Nico came barreling out behind her, waving goodbye. I drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel and my heart racing like I had done something dangerous. Because I had. And I couldn't tell if I wanted to stop or if I wanted to go back and do it again. I tried to forget about Elise. I told myself she was just being friendly. I told myself she was lonely, and I was a convenient person to talk to. I told myself I was reading too much into a few looks and one quiet smile. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about her. At the shop, I'd be swapping out a screen and my mind would drift to her kitchen. The way she leaned against the counter. The way she said my name like it mattered. Nico would be talking about school, and I'd nod while my brain replayed Elise's whisper at the door. It stayed with me. A week passed with nothing. No message, no new likes, no reason to believe anything was going to happen again. I started to relax, and that scared me because it meant I had wanted something to happen. Then Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed while I was eating a sad sandwich in the back room. A message from Elise. If you're free this evening, I'm making tea. Nico's out with friends. Feel like stopping by? I stared at the screen, heart pounding hard enough that I could hear it in my ears. The message was simple, but it felt like an invitation into something I wasn't sure I could walk away from. I typed back, "Yeah, what time?" Her reply came almost instantly. 6:30. Doors open. My hands felt sweaty as I put my phone down. I should have said no. I should have made an excuse. I should have protected my friendship with Nico and my own peace. But I didn't. At 6:25, I was pulling into her driveway. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Neat lawns, porch lights, quiet streets. But my chest felt tight like I was walking into a storm. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and called out softly, "Elise?" "In here." Her voice came from the living room. I found her on the couch, barefoot, wearing a long beige sweater and leggings. No makeup. Hair loose and slightly messy, like she'd run her fingers through it without thinking. The room was warm, lit by a single lamp in the corner. Soft acoustic music played low in the background. 2 mugs sat on the coffee table. One was steaming. She smiled when she saw me, and it wasn't her polite hosting smile. It was soft, almost relieved. "Thanks for coming," she said, gesturing to the couch. "Chamomile." "It's perfect," I said, sitting down, trying not to notice how close she was even with space between us. At first we talked like normal people. Work, Nico, the shop. She laughed when I told her about a customer who tried to trade a broken phone for half a pizza. The sound of her laugh filled the room, warm and real. Then the conversation slowed. Elise wrapped both hands around her mug like she needed the heat. "So," she said, voice gentle, "you ever miss college?" I shrugged. "Not really. I wasn't good at it. Felt like I was wasting time." Elise studied me. "You're smarter than you think." That hit harder than it should have. "You don't know me that well." "I know enough," she said, and her eyes held mine in a way that made my throat tighten. A quiet settled between us, not awkward, just heavy. Like both of us were aware of what we weren't saying out loud. Elise broke it first. "I grew up in a small town in Oregon," she said. "I thought I'd leave and never look back." "You did leave," I pointed out. "Not really," she said with a small laugh that didn't have much joy in it. "I married young, thought it was forever. Then he left when Nico was 5. Said he wasn't built for family life." My chest tightened. That's messed up. Elise shrugged like she'd repeated the story so many times it had turned into a fact, but her eyes looked tired behind the calm. "I got used to doing everything myself," she said. "I got used to being the responsible one, the mom, the one who keeps things together." I nodded slowly. "You did a good job. Nico's a good guy." Her mouth softened at Nico's name. "He is." She took a sip of tea, then looked at me again. "And you," she said quietly, "you look at me like I'm not just someone's mom." My breath caught. I set my mug down because my hands were shaking a little. "Because you're not," I said. Elise's eyes searched mine. "You meant it," she whispered. "That thing you said." My face heated, but I didn't look away. "Yeah," I admitted. "I meant it." Her smile returned, smaller and softer. "Most guys your age don't even notice women like me." "Then they're blind," I said, and the words came out before I could filter them. Elise let out a quiet laugh, but there was emotion under it. She leaned closer, resting her elbow on the couch, her body angled toward me now. "Careful, Ryan," she said. Keep talking like that and I might start believing you. Maybe you should, I replied, my voice steadier than my heart. For a moment, we just looked at each other. The room felt smaller. The music faded into the background. The air smelled faintly like lavender from her sweater, and I could see the tiny lines at the corners of her eyes that made her look real, not perfect. Elise's knee brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. I swallowed hard. "Elise," I said, and her name sounded like a confession. She lifted her hand and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "This is a bad idea," she whispered, but her eyes didn't match her words. "I know," I said, "but I can't stop thinking about you." Her breath caught, and for a second she looked scared, not of me, but of what it meant to want someone again. She leaned in just a little, close enough that I could feel her warmth. Then footsteps hit the porch. We both froze. A key scraped in the lock. My heart dropped. Elise's eyes widened, and for the first time that night, panic broke through her calm. The door started to open. The front door swung open, and my whole body went cold. For half a second, my brain refused to believe it. Because Nico was supposed to be out. Elise had said he was out, and I was sitting on his couch, inches from his mom, with my heart pounding like I had done something illegal. Nico stepped inside, one hand on his phone, the other holding a plastic bag from a gas station. "Mom, you home?" he called, kicking the door shut behind him. Elise moved fast, faster than I'd seen her move all night. She shifted away from me in one smooth motion, grabbed her mug off the table, and stood like she had been there the whole time. I did the same, standing so quickly my knee bumped the coffee table. Nico looked up and froze when he saw me. "Ryan?" he said, blinking like I was a glitch in his living room. "What are you doing here?" My mouth went dry. I tried to think of something casual, something normal. I started, then stopped, because I could hear how guilty I sounded. Elise stepped in before I could crash and burn. I asked him to stop by, she said easily. Her voice was calm, steady, like she was talking to a client. He helped me carry something earlier, and I offered him tea. Nico frowned, his eyes moving between us. "Tea, quote." "Chamomile," Elise said, holding up her mug like proof. I forced a laugh. It came out weak. "Yeah, your mom makes better tea than I do." Nico stared at me like he was trying to decide if he believed it. Then he shrugged. "Okay," he said slowly. "Weird, but whatever." He walked toward the kitchen, rustling through the bag. I grabbed chips. "You still here to game or what?" My pulse was still slamming, but I nodded like I was fine. "Yeah, sure." Nico launched into a story about his friend bailing on plans. Elise sat back down, but not near me. She stayed in her chair by the side of the room, watching us with a quiet expression that looked calm on the surface but tense underneath. I tried to play the game, tried to laugh at Nico's jokes, tried to act like my heart wasn't still stuck in my throat, but the moment from before kept hanging between me and Elise, unfinished and dangerous. By the time I left that night, my nerves felt shredded. Elise walked me to the door while Nico was upstairs grabbing something. The porch light washed her face in warm yellow and her eyes looked tired. "That was close," I whispered. Elise nodded. "Too close." "I'm sorry," I said. She shook her head. "Don't. That's not what I'm feeling." Her gaze held mine, and it felt like she was asking me to stay, even though she didn't say it out loud. Then Nico shouted from upstairs, "Ryan, you left your hoodie!" Elise stepped back like a line had snapped between us. "Drive safe," she said, voice normal again. I left with my hoodie in my hand and a storm in my chest. The next few days were torture. At work, Nico acted normal most of the time, but I kept catching him watching me, like he was waiting for me to slip. I kept my jokes light, my answers simple, my face calm. But inside, I felt like I was carrying a secret too heavy to hold. Elise didn't text me. No message. No like. Nothing. It made me feel stupid, like I had imagined all of it. Like she regretted it the second Nico walked through the door. Then on Friday night, my phone buzzed. "Elise, can you come by tomorrow afternoon? Nico will be out. I need to talk to you." My stomach flipped. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Yeah, I'll be there. The next day, I drove to her house with my hands sweating on the steering wheel. The neighborhood looked calm and bright like always, but my chest felt tight. When I knocked, Elise opened the door right away. She looked different. Not dressed up, not trying to impress, just serious. Her hair was tied back, and she wore a simple sweater and jeans. Her eyes looked like she hadn't slept much. "Come in," she said quietly. The house was silent, no music, no smell of cooking, just stillness. We sat in the living room, the same couch where everything almost happened. Elise didn't offer tea this time. She just sat across from me, hands clasped in her lap like she was holding herself together. "I can't keep doing this halfway," she said finally. My chest tightened. "You mean stop?" Quote. Elise shook her head fast. "No, I mean, if we're going to do this, we have to be honest about what it is." I swallowed hard. "What is it?" Quote. Elise's eyes filled for a second, then she blinked it back. "It's me feeling alive again," she said. "It's me feeling seen. It's me looking forward to hearing your car in the driveway." Her words hit me like a punch. I leaned forward without thinking. "Elise." She lifted her hand, stopping me. "Ryan, listen. I'm a mom. Nico is my whole world. I will not hurt him. I won't." "I don't want to hurt him either," I said quickly. "He's my friend." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I've been scared." The silence between us felt heavy. Then, Elise said the thing I had been avoiding in my own mind. "He's going to figure it out," she said, sooner or later. My stomach dropped. "So what do we do?" Elise took a slow breath. "We tell him," she said. The words made my heart race. "Elise, he's going to lose it." "Maybe," she said, "but he deserves the truth more than he deserves us lying to his face." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to breathe. "He'll hate me." Elise's voice softened. "He might be angry. He might feel betrayed. But he loves you too, Ryan. I can tell. You're his friend, and I've raised him to be a good man." I stared at her, and something about the way she said that made my throat burn. "You really think he'll understand?" I asked. Elise didn't answer right away. She looked down, then back up at me. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know I can't keep sneaking around like I'm ashamed of wanting something." Her eyes held mine. "And I can't keep pretending you're just a kid Nico works with." My pulse jumped. "I'm not a kid." "I know," she said softly. "That's the problem." We sat there, the air thick with everything unsaid. Elise's fingers twisted together like she was nervous, and that made her look younger in a way that was almost painful. I reached out and covered her hands with mine. Warm. Real. She didn't pull away. "I don't have a 5-year plan," I said quietly. "I don't have some perfect future mapped out." Elise's mouth lifted a little, sad and sweet. "Neither do I." "But I know this," I continued, voice steady. "I don't want to lose you." Her breath caught. "Ryan." I leaned closer, slow, giving her a chance to stop me. She didn't. Elise moved first this time, closing the space between us like she had finally made a decision. Our kiss was soft at first, careful and shaky. Then it deepened, and the world shrank down to that one moment. Her hand slid up to my cheek. My arms wrapped around her, and I felt her exhale like she had been holding her breath for years. When we pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," I admitted. She looked at me, eyes shining. "But I don't want to be invisible anymore." I swallowed, my chest full. "You're not invisible, not to me." Elise's lips trembled into a small smile. Then, "Stay." I nodded. "I'm here." The sound of a car door slamming outside made us both freeze. Elise's eyes widened. "That's Nico." My heart dropped, because this time, I couldn't run out the back door. This time, we had just promised to stop hiding. And Nico was walking up the steps.